You're listening to The Grip, where we take hold of mindset and martial arts. Now, let's get started. Welcome back to The Grip. Today we're diving into one of our special mini episodes where we mix things up with a few fast-paced segments. We'll kick things off with Grip and Go, a round of rapid-fire questions to loosen things up and to get to know our guest in a fun way. Then we'll move into Roll Call, where I bring in questions straight from you, our listeners and audience. That way the guest can tackle what's on your mind. And to wrap it all up, we'll finish with Word into Wisdom. In this segment, the guest picks a number between 1 and 100. That number ties to a word from the NICE list, which can be motivational and uplifting terms, and the naughty list, the gritty, tough, and sometimes challenging words. Once revealed, the guest unpacks the word, sharing their personal definition and how it's shown up in their life or martial arts journey, and what wisdom they take from it. That's it. 3 rounds, 1 conversation. Let's get into it. All right. Welcome back to The Grip. If you're listening now and you haven't caught up, go back and listen to episode 3 with Roland. It's a good one. You get to hear his background, a little bit about his journey into the martial arts world, his service, and what he's doing now and how he's killing it as a coach. And so go back and listen to episode 3. But now we are in our mini episode and we're going to get right into it, Roland. So we start every mini episode off with a Grip and Go. So this is a more rapid fire series. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So first question is gi or no gi?
Ooh, gi, always.
Joint locks or chokes?
Chokes.
Training morning, afternoon, or evening?
Yes.
If you could, I love that. If you could roll with any martial artist, alive or dead, it would be?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one. Dave Schultz. I would roll with Dave Schultz.
Can you tell me a little bit about Dave Schultz?
Dave Schultz was an Olympic wrestler, the world champ, gold medalist. He was killed by John DuPont in the 80s at Team Foxcatcher. So that's what that movie Foxcatcher's about. I say it all the time. Like if there was a wrestler that wrestled like a Jiu Jitsu practitioner, it was him. You know, he was athletic, of course. He was a lot of things, but he looked like an old man. He was balding, and just he walked kind of funny, but he was such an intelligent dude and so compassionate. And he was and kind of still is like the Rocky Balboa and heartbeat of USA wrestling. Even the Russians loved him. They loved him because they hated wrestling against him. They called him the Sly Fox because he learned Russian to wrestle the Russians and learned everything that they did. And I mean, he was just such a student, and he would put you out of position. So you had to deal with something before you could be athletic and mount an attack. And the whole time he would just walk you into a bad situation. And then when he'd beat you, he'd smile and hug you. I would love to spend time with Dave Schultz.
Cool. Good one. Your personal fuel before training is?
Coffee.
The phrase you repeat to yourself on hard days is?
Oh, I have a lot of little fortune cookie things that just run through my head all the time, but just don't stop.
What are a few of them?
Oh, I mean, when people are just dying, I'm like, hey, you really think that's air you're breathing? Right? Like from the Matrix. You can really convince yourself that things are way worse than they are. And then all of a sudden you just go, I'll just keep going. And then, and need versus want. The need versus want. You may want a sweet, but you need to get on your hip. You know what I mean? You need those fundamentals, and those things add up.
Okay. A wellness habit you wish you started sooner is?
Cold plunge. Absolutely. And I can't do it as much in the summertime because I just have a like one of those feed troughs, and I just, leave it outside and I throw ice in it. And when it's warm, it just never gets cold enough. So summertime, I have to be outside to warm up to get loose, but it's still wintertime is awesome because I just shock my body, cold plunge every morning. So
very cool. You feel most grateful when?
when my whole family is on the mat. I love it. That's probably like I'll sit back and when the mats are full and I'll watch all my family, all with different partners and having a good time and working it out. It's nice.
The best advice you ever received was?
I've gotten a lot of good advice. Literally, it's not about you. It's never about you. Yeah. That's probably, it's really easy to fall into being selfish and just, oh, I have to do this for me. I have to meal prep for me. I got to do this for everything's for you, for my improvement. So I can be this, so I can do these other things. Right. Um, and that's a really interesting thing. Like you can convince yourself that you're not being selfish so you can help more. Right. And the reality is you're probably being really selfish. And once you realize you're just in service, it's not about you. You know what I mean? There's a lot of eyes watching you. I mean, every once in a while, and usually it's right after competition when people still are kind of in competition mode and they're still really trying to work on technique and do stuff. And there's always one person who starts kind of just one step out of out of balance, and you just kind of have to let them know, like, hey, Sundays we have the kids are allowed on the mat and they can train, but they have to train like the adults, otherwise they get bowed off the mat. And they go hard. These kids have gas tanks, and I go, hey, don't forget, whatever you do, there's eyes watching you, always, always. So how you present yourself, how you express yourself, these kids are watching it, and they're going to try to be you, whether it's intentional or not. So like, conduct yourself like an adult, like a professional, like somebody that's doing this for a living. Yeah, because a lot of little eyes watching you. They're all, and then they remember everything.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. That's it for our rapid fire. So now we're going to move on to our roll call series. So this is questions from the audience. And as you know, we are not up and launched yet. And so I did reach out to family, friends, and some of your students, and a ton of them got back to me, and I'm very appreciative of that. And so I have a list of questions from them so they can pick your brain a little bit.
All right.
Okay, so first question is, why did you choose Jiu Jitsu over other martial arts?
I don't think I did. I think, it's Jiu Jitsu chose me. I mean, I love Kung Fu movies. I love karate movies. I loved all the ninja movies growing up. It was awesome. I loved them all. I mean, they're all entertaining. And then when you go do those martial arts, it's fun, but it almost feels like it's so notional that it's like a really active cosplay. You're like, man, well, I can't really like full blown kick somebody in the head, or I can't full blown do this, right? And then, oh, hey, you can't do that. That's illegal. Hey, you can't do this. That's illegal. And it was just dealing with all those rules. It was like learning another stick and ball sport. And then the second I started jiu-jitsu, I was like, what's the rules? And they're like, don't die. And I was like, oh, all right. And learning that style, like old school jiu-jitsu. And I'm really glad I found old school Rick style of jiu-jitsu, not IBJJF, learning the points right off the bat, learning position right off the bat, actually working on fundamentals and having even lesser amounts of rules, and learning wrestling and judo at the same time. I'm glad it all came at once because it was so not notional. I mean, you can go 100% and jiu-jitsu was like, oh, wow. Okay. The only thing that's going to save my life right now from this gorilla that's trying to kill me is jiu-jitsu. I have to do the technique. Otherwise I'm dead. And it just felt like real fights that were happening at work. So jiu-jitsu chose me. Yeah.
Good. Mm-hmm. What do you do to stay consistent and motivated to train?
I would say that I have to remind myself that, like, especially the kids and the white belts, they have to have an example, right? Like sometimes they put a little more trust in black belts, like we walk on water and we know everything. We don't. But we have to show that we're doing effort, we're doing the warm-ups. We are doing the technique. We're sparring with everybody. They have to see us fail too. They have to see that we're human. I don't want to be that black belt. I've seen black belts, time and time again, where, they come in and they train, or we go over there and we train with them, and they kind of get that same, they sit back and, yeah, nope, I'm not gonna, no, I'm gonna be over here. I know what that feels like. I mean, I've been hurt before where I should not have been rolling with anybody. I should absolutely be at home with my leg up or something in a brace. And I never want anybody that I train with to think that I would ask them to do something that I wouldn't do. And, and just, you have to be the example. I'm not anything to write home about. I'm not anything that people are like, oh man, that guy's amazing. But just having no quit, that, you have to see that, oh, okay, well, if he's willing to do it, then I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. I
Practicing what you preach.
yeah. And I mean, I've seen people that run classes, do stuff, and it's one of two things. They either go, hey, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in warm-ups. I don't believe in doing stuff that's not jujitsu, and I don't believe in pushing yourself. I believe in just doing the sport. And that's great. I mean, that's all opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. Then you get the other people that they just, you can teach too much, and then all of a sudden you start doing stuff, and then you get crushed by your own guys, and you're like, no, I've been teaching too much. And I've done it. I felt it where all of a sudden everybody takes this huge jump and I'm sliding because I'm teaching too much and I'm not rolling enough. I know what that feels like. And when you can't do something, you're really hard on yourself about it. And that's a bummer. So I just try to keep everybody moving forward, always moving. And so that way, like their momentum just keeps them going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. What would you say to parents that take their kids out of jiu-jitsu because it's too hard, or they say it's not fun?
Ooh, yeah. So this is kind of controversial. I mean, when it comes to parenting, but obviously I'm a little more old school. I think that as parents, we have a responsibility to make our children not obedient, but they have to know where boundaries lie, and they have to understand how to operate within a framework in society, because society has rules. And if you treat your kid like they're so special, once they get into the world, they're going to realize they're not special. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody's coming to help them. Nobody cares if they fail, right? And you have to show them support in making them ready for the natural things that are inevitable, which are, you're going to die. Your parents are going to die. People are going to leave you, and you are going to have to rely on yourself. And that's just the truths, right? And if you are treating your kid like they have to build more and more entitlement, and they're entitled to this wonderful life because they're your kid, then you're going to create a little monster that is going to have a really hard time being able to handle stress mitigation, and they're likely to have a really, really, really rough go at some mental health. But if you teach them resiliency, that is the biggest gift you'll ever give your kids. And I'm not saying make your kids walk home 12 miles every day and make them lift weights for, 12 hours a day and blah, blah, blah. But, you can show your kids love and discipline, in a healthy way, and make sure that they're ready for a cruel world. I mean, we live in the best time ever. There's still a lot of cruelty out there. There's a lot of evil. If your kid's not ready for it, it's kind of your fault. And you can't blame anybody. You can't blame anybody else. They're your kids. So if you want your kids to have fun, well, that's great. Jiu-jitsu is fun. It's a lot of fun. But there comes a point where there's a switch to where you can have fun and still lose. Oh man, I've gotten beat up a bunch of times, and man, that was a great roll. That was so much fun. I didn't have a chance, but that was a blast. You have to teach them that, because sometimes they'll lose their mind if they can't catch the wave, right? You want the kid to be in the white water and just splash around and have a good time all day long, right? What happened? I got beat up by the ocean. Was it good? Yeah, I was good. I'm good. Didn't die. We're great, right?
Yeah.
That's resilient. You want that kid. And you're not here to entertain your kid. So we see that time to time, where parents want to give their kids so much, probably because they didn't have it, so they want their kids to have it. Totally get that. I totally understand. But there's no better superpower than resiliency than you can give to your kids. And if you think that you feel happy when you see your kid get a gift, you're like, that's cool. They received a gift. Oh, they're happy. Imagine how happy you will be to watch your kid take a horrible failure in something, right? In another sport, in whatever, stand up, dust themselves off and go, let's go again. And go, wow, dude, my kid's it. Look at that. That's the biggest gift to me is I've watched all of my kids do that. And let me tell you, that fills my cup, man. That fills my cup.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to explain it, Roland, because I think fun can be a big overarching term. And I think sometimes is kind of the go to thing that we seek out, especially for kids. But what a great opportunity to show them different forms of fulfillment and ways to be proud of themselves through hard things. And maybe it wasn't all, that fun, but we overcame something, or teaching these more intertwined feelings and emotions through an activity like jujitsu is pretty cool. And so,
And I think it's a
yeah.
lot of fun. I mean, because, your kid might grow up to be a logger. That's hard. It's really hard. I know loggers. There's loggers in this town, right? There's tons of tradesmen, and they come in and they're filthy, and just that they've been just busting their knuckles nonstop. And you know what? They're so proud to walk their kids in here, and from that group, that blue collar group, they appreciate that hard work.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, that's why we have everything set up between 3 different levels of expectation for kids. And the little 5-year-olds, 3 to 5-year-olds, right? There, it's just fun. Hey, have fun on the mat. Don't be intimidated. And that's when you take the kids to the park. That's why there's benches, so that way the parents can watch their kids have fun. And then the next level is when kids aren't cute anymore, right? They're like 7, 8, right? You're missing a tooth, and they say something, and you're like, oh, you can't say that. It's not cute anymore, right? That's our goal is we want you to fall in love with hard work. And there's nothing more gratifying to a parent when you're like, oh, look at my kid. He's choosing to do hard work. Awesome. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you get into the teens, and then you want to see them express themselves, because that's the hardest thing for a teen. When a teen goes astray, you know what I mean? And they start doing some dumb things, and they have bad stress mitigation skills. The problem is they don't know how to express themselves. And that's why arts are so important. Pick up an instrument, pick up a sport, pick up, painting, pick up singing. Jiu-jitsu, it's an art. You're just expressing yourself through strangling other people. It's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
we bracket it that way, and then you see a lot of success. So it's pretty nice.
Love it. How do you keep a good mindset in jujitsu, or not get frustrated when you're not performing the best of your abilities?
I just get back to needs and wants. I need to be able to survive. I need to be able to do the basics, and you're managing your expectations. My expectation is to be able to move efficiently. And if I may win every round, but if I'm not moving well, it frustrates me. And then I have to go through and do my diagnostics. Why am I not getting on my hip? Why are my frames disconnecting? All those things, but that's what makes it fun. So, I don't get, at some point I go, well, it's just jujitsu. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's always tomorrow, right? And,
Yeah.
and you have to kind of be able to just, have that inshallah moment where you're like, hey man, God wanted me to get wrecked today. Cool. All right. It is
Sure.
what it is.
What's your recovery regimen to stay healthy?
I don't have one.
Don't lie. You just said you go do cold plunges in
That's
the
it.
morning.
That's it.
Just cold plunges.
Cold plunges. That's it. Cold plunge, coffee, eat as much
Cold
meat.
plunges and coffee.
That's it.
And
That's all.
And we're out.
And
That's
we're
all
out. That's the tagline. Cold plunges and coffee. That's it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I
No,
love that.
I'm a momentum guy. I mean, I don't lift weights. I don't do anything. I just do jujitsu, which I'm trying to in the future to lift weights and do things like that for prevention, because I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm just always on the mat, and that's part of the discipline thing. I don't have that discipline to do strength and conditioning as much as I should. And my brain is wired for just flat out all the time. I remember strength and conditioning and wrestling. Let's grab that Bulgarian bag and let's go. When I have to cover a strength and conditioning class for like Sean when he's out, everyone's like, oh no, here we go. And I'm like, we got one speed, man. This is going to be rough. Here we go.
Sure.
And it's always a jiu-jitsu warm up, body weight, Bulgarian bag, kettlebell style, because you always feel good after that. You don't have that super tight tension. I went through a small phase where I did some lifting, powerlifting, old school powerlifting. And it lasted about a year. I mean, my joints hurt too much. I was always tight. Anytime I did anything bicep related, it was just, I couldn't bend my arms straight. I felt stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I had the discipline to continue with that because, I mean, those guys are so strong. It'd be nice to be strong.
This one kind of piggybacks off of that. So what do you do outside martial arts to recharge and stay balanced?
So, it's kind of weird. I teach a lot of hard skills. So I have to be up on those hard skills. So I shoot a lot of tactical shooting. I teach a lot of shooting classes, a lot of pistol rifle, mostly pistol and mostly concealed pistol for security teams. So that's fun. I like that, but it's also work. It's also work fun, Um, between, I mean, I've gone to Dirtfish and O'Neill, rally school a few times. I mean, those keep up on driving, and I enjoy that. That's a lot of fun. But again, it kind of feeds work and tactical medicine, all the TCCC and that type of trauma medicine I like, but I think it's more of a distraction. I like to have like my fingers in a lot of things because it keeps my attention because I'm kind of ADD. But outside of work, I really don't have a ton of stuff other than just enjoying time with the family, and whatever they want to do and just being around. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. We'll go, hang out with some friends and they'll start playing pickleball and they're like, "Hey, Roland, you want to play?" And I'm like, "No. I'm going to sit and watch and just soak it in." Like one of my favorite things is during Christmas when we decorate the tree, I just like to sit back and watch everybody decorate the tree. And I don't want to forget any of this. It fills my cup every time. And it drives my wife nuts. She's like, "Are you going to help? Are you going to do something?" And I'm like, I like this. I like this.
I'm taking it all in.
Just give me
Yeah, that's great. Favorite position or guard and why?
Ooh, yes. I like
The variety.
all of it. Yeah. I like obscure guards. Like lapel guards a lot. Anything dealing with a lapel, I really enjoy because they're sneaky and they're fun. I've been working on this like hammock connection. That's kind of a lapel guard. We've developed a few sweeps. I'm sure somebody else has figured it out and named it already, but I haven't seen it. So we use it a lot. I like things like that are sneaky, but what I rely on most of the time, half guard. I really enjoy half guard, and I'd say half guard's kind of my go-to. But I like everything.
Mm-hmm. Just a question off of that: how do you go about deciding what you're going to teach? I was just thinking about all the variety that when we would come in as a student. It was so unpredictable, I think, which is cool. That's what I liked. Did you have any rhyme or reason as to what you were going to be teaching, or just kind of going with the flow and whatever felt like? Do you try and build things off of one another, or what's the strategy behind that?
Sometimes. So I have like a photographic memory, which is kind of cool. I don't have a lot of superpowers. So like one, I can see something and I can probably hit it in a roll. So that's a good one. The other one is I can eat 5 minutes before I walk onto the mat and go crazy hard and not throw up. So those are two good ones. But they're, especially when you were training with us the most, kind of the way that I teach is, and if you notice, like we did a lot of rolling warm-ups, I would see you guys roll and I would kind of pick up on some like overarching concepts that were missing in a lot of people rolling. And then I can also take inventory of, okay, we have, this many white belts. Maybe we're upper belt heavy. Okay, we're going to get in the weeds, in this guard. And then if we're lower belt heavy, okay, we're going to go to basics in the same guard, but we're going to go in the basics and try to really teach to kind of the best cross section I could and teach to things that were frustrating people. It takes a lot of attention and it takes kind of an understanding of a lot of guards. Some guys don't play a lot of guards. Some guys, they just don't concern themselves with something that doesn't serve them, like their game. And I get that. I totally get that, right? There's some guys out there that they do 3 guards, but really they do 1 guard super well. And that's awesome. World champions with it. That's great. But that's just like not, like for me, I try to just consume as much as I can, get as good as I can at it, and then try to help people enjoy that same guard and get as good as they can at it too. So, that's one thing that we kind of pride ourselves in is, we try to develop or have people develop their jujitsu. It's not my jujitsu, it's their jujitsu. So like, I'm just kind of opening doors for them. You're like, yeah, check it out. You might like it. Yeah. What about this? Maybe turn your hand the other way. Works a little better. Pull your elbow to your back. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. That changes everything. Cool. I'm glad you like it. And then people build their own game. So it's nice to have a room that you can roll with 20 people, 20 different games, completely different. There's nothing more disappointing than going into a room and everybody's got the same game. And you're like, roll with one of them, you've rolled with all of them. It's just varying degrees of how good it is.
Makes sense. How do you remember all the names of the moves? I thought this was a great question.
Photographic memories. Rick was really hard on us being competent in judo. And he's like, look, you guys aren't going to be recognized by USA Judo, but you are going to be a black belt in judo. You're getting all of it. And so one of the biggest ways when, you're talking to a judoka is if you can't go through and basically explain everything that's happening with the traditional Japanese names, you're not going to win their respect, because judokas usually have their nose up in the air. Oh, like judo's, it's not really jiu-jitsu. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is not really a thing. It's, it's really judo. They're not wrong. But, those guys usually have their nose up in the air because they're the tuxedo wearers. So he says, if you want to win their respect, do that. And so, and we've had a lot of judo black belts come into our gym, and we don't start our judo black belts at blue belt like most Brazilian jiu-jitsu gyms do. We start them at white belt, and they go through the whole process. And I think that all the high level judokas that have trained with us have all appreciated the fact that there's no shortcut. But we truly treat it like it's, we give it the respect that judo gives themselves the respect, and we respect judo. So Rick was very heavy on that, and also.
So something that was instilled on you from the beginning, then it sounds like, knowing the importance of the names of what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, and most Brazilian instructors know all that as well. It's just most time, especially back in the 90s, it was just the language barrier. So everything was arm lock. Okay, choke, arm lock. Oh, and they show 30 different variations of a choke. What is it? What is that called? It's a choke. Oh, but it wasn't because they didn't know the name. It was because it was the language barriers.
Yeah. Can you share a story about a student who surprised you or made you especially proud as a coach?
Ooh, there's so many. Like, you can't choose like, oh, this one's going to be the one. I don't have that Jean-Jacques Machado Yoda ability. Like, I don't have that. I wish I did, but like, Jean-Jacques can see into the future, and he knows, like, that's the one. This one, don't worry about that one. Like, he's pretty wild. We got a kid that came in and was a tall, lanky kid, and wasn't necessarily a tough kid. Didn't have a ton of confidence, and then this story is as old as jiu-jitsu is, and probably weighs 125 pounds soaking wet. Just tall beanpole kid, and he absolutely has shocked me. I mean, he went through his blue belt test, and he went from, if he walked out our door, and when there was a lot of squirrels out at the park across the street, I get worried that, like, one of them squirrels might get him. And now he's a monster. I mean, I have a hard time submitting him because he's got a superpower of, like, I think he like, I don't have a neck, but he doesn't have a neck either. His neck is small, and all of his arteries like super tight. So, it's really hard to shrink everything down. And his confidence, his abilities, I mean, he's a nightmare. I mean, he is a nightmare. He's a completely different person. And when he went through his blue belt test, there was a moment where you watched that switch get flipped. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I can't do this. And I'm like, no, you're going to do this. And he was like, I'm going to do this. Okay. And you watched that, that process really change him. And it was cool. And everybody had a part in it. I don't know who talked to him, who said what that really flipped his switch, but somebody said something, and you know how belt tests are. You have brown belts all around you, just hyping you up. Everybody's there to help you. And it was, it was a special blue belt test. And he's a nightmare. Before, he went from not winning, getting murdered in all of his tournaments, to he's winning gold at all of his tournaments now. And he's just so shocked that, oh yeah, it's easy. Oh yeah, this just works so nice. And he's still a nice, super nice kid, really, really good guy, really gentle, but he's not the guy that you want to take an easy round. He's not an easy round. He's a nightmare, so watching him still progress and still move up and have that is pretty cool. He just completely changed himself. So it was nice.
This has made me think, so you have 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel comfortable, could you share their ages? And I just think of your family as just like this little badass family. And it has been cool because the short amount of time that I was up in Seattle, I even was able to see intermittently them come in and out of the gym, as a few of them were in different school activities, and then your daughter being in college, and yet I still got to see there's moments where they were all there together. Can you explain just moments that you've experienced as a dad on times where they've made you extremely proud?
Yeah, all of them have just these moments that are huge, you know. So Alex is my oldest. She's 22. She just got back from she was wrestling on scholarship at Wayland Baptist, and she just graduated, so she just came back home. Zach just graduated from Ording High School last year, and he's doing carpentry, and he is 19. Sophia is 13. She's in middle school, and then Loudon is 9. They are nothing alike. None of them. They're so like, they're four corners of the box. You know, they argue and fight with each other all the time, but they're like all the best of friends too. Loudon, Loudon's still super young, so he doesn't have a ton of confidence in himself. And then all of a sudden, he like just gets enough attention from me for a moment, and I'll watch him just do, like De La Hiva. Like, what 9-year-old loves De La Hiva? And he goes, Dad, I really like De La Hiva. Look, and then he'll do all the different things, and I'm like, wow, actually you got a pretty good De La Hiva, man. All right. And he's still learning how to live with losses, because his first couple tournaments, he pulled some pretty tough kids, and he just kind of, oh man, I didn't win. Everybody wins. Like all of our guys win. Well, I didn't win. It's like, no, dude, all of our guys don't win. Everybody goes through losses. But when you're 9 years old, like, the beginning
Comprehending that's hard.
Yeah, the beginning of time was 9 years ago. It's really hard to gauge those things. And now he's seeing wins, and he's playing other sports, and he's seeing how jiu-jitsu's really helped and wrestling's really helped, but I think right now his world's really big, but it's nice to watch. He makes friends really easy. He's pretty athletic, and he's kind of seeing that currency, and it's nice to see. Sophia is really quiet, and she's like a Disney princess, where like if she walks around, like all the birds fly to her, and girls bring her stuff. She's just the sweetest person in the world. And I was always worried. I'm like, she's not gonna have any grit. She's just too nice. Girls are mean, man. Girls are mean. So I was like, she's just so cute. I can't yell at her. I just can't be mean. If I just look at her, I'm like, this is disappointing, Sophia. She's like, she falls apart. And I'm like, oh man, now I feel terrible. Now that she's 13, I'll see her, she'll beat the snot out of adults, and I'm like, wow, she's really good. And then I'll roll with her. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's really good. I don't know how she feels about competing or jumping in there, but she would really surprise herself. I mean, there's girls that we have in here that are awesome competitors, and Sophia's, dead even with them, and I think it shocks her. So hopefully, she starts competing a little bit for herself if she likes it, but if she doesn't, it doesn't bother me. She has her sights set on wrestling this year, and she's a monster wrestler. She beats up boys, and that's what's going to get her to college. So in our family, we focus jiu-jitsu and wrestling, and then it focuses just wrestling during high school, because I can't afford paying for college. They earn their own, and then they get in and they do their things. And then Zach had a pretty cool moment when Zach was little, when John and I got together. Zach was a little dude, he was 4 years old, 5 years old. And when we started doing jiu-jitsu, he was super bendy. So Berimbolo was like, just came out. That was like the thing. And Rick hated Berimbolo. He's like, I hate that game. So he would mock it and call it Barambolo. Oh, that Barambolo, so Zach would call it Barambolo. It was hilarious. And he goes, come here, I'm going to Barambolo you. And he was, 6-year-old that could Barambolo you legitimately. And so when we moved to Camas, we, would train with, Universal BJJ for that year. And they do a bunch of different martial arts, right? At the time, I think they had all kinds of things, and they had this big display case that you walk by, and there was nunchucks in there, and he goes, can I get those? And I was like, I don't know, man. And his favorite movie at the time was Hot Rod, like the opening scene where he always wants to fight his stepdad. It's a slapstick comedy, and his stepdad's like, nope, Like he always wants to fight him to earn his respect. And he goes, okay. And his stepdad beat the crap out of him. And there was this part where he goes, oh, Rhodesian fighting sticks, very lethal, and beats the crap out of him. It's hilarious. So we used to always joke, you know, I go, you want some Rhodesian fighting sticks? You got to beat me in a match. All right. And I never let him win. We would roll for 45 minutes after class, like straight. And he'd sit there and I'd let him get super close. And I never let him win. And I remember a story about Bob Marley. Bob Marley's kids were talking about him in this documentary, and they said, we loved our dad. He's super competitive and never let us win, and it really pissed his kids off. And so it was kind of funny, but all of his kids pretty successful, right? And I was like, maybe there's something to that. And I just, you know, it was like a fleeting thought. I just never let him win, but I'd let him try really hard, man. He is so mad. And then his blue belt, like, and then that was when, you know, he's 16 years old. His blue belt test, every single blue belt test I've ever given, I mean, some people have done pretty well where you're like, oh, they didn't die. Like, this is awesome. Zach was the best, hands down. He was in such good shape. He was wrestling at a super high level. All of his wrestling partners were all multiple time state champs. He was in the toughest room in Washington, hands down, probably one of the toughest rooms in the country. And he got himself up every day and was training 3 times a day. I mean, he was set in. He did a lot of really cool things, especially that year. And so he was looking at his blue belt like, yep, this is my rite of passage as an adult. Like, here we go. And so he just smoked it. He did so well, actually. He actually pulled the other guy that was testing, who was an adult. He'd do his stuff, run back and pull him to, you know, make sure he made it. So it was pretty impressive. And then at the end, you know, you roll with all those people, you're rolling with fresh people for so long. And then at the end, you roll with me. And, you know, so he submits me, right? So, you know, he's standing there proud, he ties his gi, gets everything all set, got his little tough guy face. So I call him out and I put his belt on him and I reach inside my gi and I pull out nunchucks and I stuff him in his belt, and he goes, boo, and just loses it. So that was cool. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So and people were like, wait, what? And I'm like, long story.
Yeah.
But that was a really cool belt test, and I was super proud of him. And then Alex, it was funny. Alex, for her, mostly it was her transition to wrestling, because she just did jiu-jitsu, but she never had confidence. Even though she won all the jiu-jitsu tournaments she went to, like, she just didn't have any confidence. She's like, oh, nobody really does jiu-jitsu, Dad. Like, okay, all right, you know, whatever. And she actually got into a fight in junior high, and I told her, hey, you know, I don't think you should be friends with these girls. I said, these girls seem like trouble. And she goes, no, everybody's so mean to him. And, you know, and she kind of roots for the underdog. And I said, well, okay. And she goes, you know, I just want to defend these girls, right? And I'm like, it's kind of a bad idea, but you know, you're going to do what you're going to do. You're going to learn this lesson. She was playing softball too at the time. I was like, hang out with the softball players. She goes, oh, I don't know. So then she took my advice and started hanging out with softball players. And those 2 girls actually were bullies, and they had been kicked out of school for fighting before. So then they focused everything on Alex because she just stopped hanging out with them. And there was drama, right? So it was drama all the time. We had to go to school mediation, right? She did all the stuff she was supposed to do. And then they tried to jump her in between classes. Or just before that, the day before that, she was just kind of at wit's end. And I said, okay, we're done. Let's go to practice. And she goes, okay. And I grabbed a girl that was just like super CrossFit, you know, one of the moms that was there. She was like super fit, blue belt. And it said, hey, you roll every round with Alex. And if her face is up, you hit her. I said, it's a fight with you guys, all class. And she goes, okay. And I said, Rick, you cool with that? And he goes, I'm cool with it. I'm like, okay. So we went through class, and man, she'd come walking off and her hair's all crazy. And I said, hey, how's Alex doing? She's like, man, she's doing good. She put her mouthpiece back in. All right, going back in, you know, and they crap out of each other. And you know, and Alex did great. You know, she came, you know, I mean, she cried through the whole practice, and we were driving back in the car, and I said, hey, how do you feel? And she goes, that was a lot. And I said, you'll never fight anybody as tough as that girl. And she goes, really? And I go, yeah, she's really tough. Really tough. There's nobody in your junior high that'll even come close to being as tough as her. And you did great. And she goes, oh, and I said, okay, every time she hit you in the head, I said, what'd you do? She goes, I got tighter in my half guard. I said, okay. All right. What'd you do? I wrestled up. Oh, okay, cool. Okay. So why are you taking crap from anybody? I said, those girls want to do anything. You handle it. And she goes, but I'll get in trouble. And I said, you're getting in trouble from who? She goes, well, I mean, the principal. And I said, no. I said, I'll pick you up and we'll go get ice cream. If you go do what you're supposed to do. I said, but the family rule is, if somebody wants to fight with you and somebody wants to do this to you, you better injure both of them, and they better catch you chasing whoever else wanted to jump in and fight you. That's the family standard, right? And then I didn't expect her to do it. Then the next day, these girls they posted it all over Facebook that they're going to beat her up in the bathroom. And Alex doesn't have Facebook, so she had no idea. So she's walking to class, and they're sitting there, hey, come in the bathroom, come in the bathroom. And she was like, no, I'm done. She dropped her backpack. She goes, you want to fight me? You can fight me out here. And it shocked them. They were like, oh, because there was a bunch of them in the bathroom. So one of them walks out and then kind of had to get themselves all psyched up. And as they were getting themselves psyched up, Alex beat the crap out of both of them, grabs one, boom, boom, threw her by her hair, put her on belly, right? And the girl just curled up in a ball and grabs the other one, starts fighting the other one, and just beat the crap out of both of them. I was working graveyards at the time, and Jonna calls me, and, when I was sleeping, it was in the morning. She goes, well, you got your wish. And I was like, oh, what happened? She goes, Alex
Took you literally.
I was like, oh, okay. All right, I'll head over there. So I went over there, and that's when I found out these girls had been suspended before for fighting, and there are always problems. And everybody loved Alex. Alex has never been a problem. And so I walked in there, and I had Loudon on my hip. When it was when we went back to Bullhead, I walked in, and the principal's sitting there, and he's like beside himself, right? And the SRO, the school resource officer, standing behind him. And I know her real well. And he goes, this is unacceptable. Alex got into a fight and really put it on him. And I mean, we can't stand for that. I was like, whoa, hold on. We've gone through all this mediation. She's tried to do everything peacefully, and these girls are a problem for you. So she did you a favor. She defended herself when you couldn't keep her safe. So you actually should be thanking her. I said, I know she's got to be suspended, and we'll take that. I'm going to take her out of school, and we're going to go get ice cream. And you tell me when she comes back. And I don't want to have another conversation about this. And he was like, okay. And I was like, all right. I grabbed Alex, and we sat down, and we jumped in the car, and I looked at her and I said, hey, how do you feel? She goes, am I in trouble? Like, you're absolutely not in trouble. I said, how do you feel? She goes, I feel great. Awesome. And I said, you hurt anybody? And she goes, I don't think so. And I said, okay, well, we can work on that. But then she just started laughing. I said, let's go get some ice cream, get a couple of days off. You're not in trouble. Don't ever take anything from anybody like that. Don't ever get bullied. She goes, I won't ever get bullied. And she never has since. So that was like a huge turning point. And I know it's like aggressive for a lot of parents to think, I don't want to condone this and I don't want to condone that. And that's a beautiful luxury of first world thinking. But you really have to consider some good old fashioned, schoolyard justice sometimes goes a long way in somebody's life, because there's a lot of people out there that take being bullied their whole life, and they never recover as an adult. They become a pushover for the rest of their life. And you just got to stand up for yourself one time. That's it. Sports are great for it. And sometimes it's that. So,
yeah,
I was super proud of her for that. Then she eventually transitioned from Jiu Jitsu to wrestling, and she's wrestled in Germany. She's wrestled, in Austria, all over the place. And she impresses me all the time.
That's amazing. And she's coaching now?
Yeah, she's coaching at Cascade Christian. It's a private high school for the women's team. So she has a small
amazing
team, but they're gonna build, and she coaches here at the gym, and she's doing great.
Good fam. I love it.
Got lucky.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
As a gym owner, how do you let go of total control of classes and let someone else teach that may have a different style than you?
It's easy. I mean, if someone's going to be a coach here and I trust them to be a coach, I have to trust them, and I have to let the reins off. I'll give them my feedback afterwards if I'm in class. If someone's coaching or teaching a class and I'm there, I stand in line with everybody else, and I know that's weird for a lot of people. Why is the black belt standing over here and then there's a brown belt teaching class? Like, that's so weird, or a purple belt. And it's because they're showing something that they're passionate about showing. Maybe they're doing me a favor, maybe I'm just cooked. And also it's good for them to get feedback afterward. But you have to cultivate your instructors. You can't just, okay, here's my expectations. See you later. I'm out of here. And it's because I care about them, and I want them to be proud of what they're doing, and I want them to feel good about it. And I also don't want them to develop the bravado. I am the coach,
Mm-hmm.
I know that, we've had some visiting black belts that find it really weird that whoever's teaching is in the front of class, and then everyone else is lined up. Doesn't matter if you're a black belt or not. Like, you're in line with everybody else. And what it does is, one, it's super old school. And it gets people to focus on the instructor. Like, okay, so this content is coming from this person, so let's focus on this person. And you don't get this gaggle of black belts sitting all together and them doing their thing. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's the cool kid club. Oh, when you're a black belt, you get to do that. And it's like, no, dude, you're a black belt, man. You already got all the respect in the room, but this is teaching environment. So let's focus. And then sometimes it's not the black belt that's teaching. So you're teaching. So I'm over here and I'm going to stay quiet. If you have a question, I'm here as a resource, but this is you. And so, you know, we've seen some success with that.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to design the perfect training week, what would it look like?
I would say splitting your week. So Sunday, flat out, tons of sparring, empty the tank, just advanced level effort, just tons of sparring, like an open mat with a cost. And then Monday, focus a lot on a specific guard or guard retention. Tuesday, which is our no-gi classes. We build off of usually what we did on Monday, but the no-gi version. And then Wednesday, we work on guard passing, a specific set of passing, and same thing on Thursday. And then we usually mix wrestling in our no-gis, a lot of wrestling. And then Friday, I would say judo or wrestling or a judo wrestling pairing, because usually, well, I can't say classic judo, Kodokan judo that's in the Olympics currently, that rule set, you give your back a lot and isn't exactly the greatest to train pure judo, or excuse me, not pure judo, because pure judo is like Kosen judo, which is great to train because it doesn't end after the ippon. But to train more of a Kosen style judo, and the throws are just slightly different and off axis because you need to submit the person after the throw instead of just wait for your ippon and let the back clap. The best way to train that is the little Kosen style judo with wrestling counters. So this didn't work, and then here's a wrestling single leg that complements, right? Because of position, and which is also works in Kosen because you can grab the legs. So you just get like a jacket wrestling, you know, or sambo style takedowns that are wrestling based with the Kosen judo, with a takedown on Friday and then full sparring on Friday, and then Saturday we kind of wind it down with fundamentals, really just mellow fundamentals. And I think if you go through that week that way, it's a pretty good setup. But that's a lot for a lot of people. I mean, that's a lot. We have a lot of people that just, they're here all the time, and you know, they get it done, and your body gets used to it, and you need to learn how to modulate your tempo where you don't have all this time to rest. You don't have only a competition gear. What you have is you have like, I can fight as long as I need to, anytime, all the time. And that's kind of the goal. Like, you learn how to modulate your effort to not hurt yourself.
Do you have an opinion on frequency students should necessarily come to the gym? I know everybody has different lifestyles, different finances to consider, all the things, but it would be kind of nice if these people would come this many times a week.
I would say 3 days a week. I mean, 3 days a week, that's a pretty solid setup. I mean, for most of my time in jiu-jitsu, with Rick, it was 3 times a week, and I physically couldn't do anymore. I mean, 2.5 hours in 100-degree heat minimum. There was a lot of times I would be driving home, and then I'd see that like sizzle, sizzle, sizzle on the side of my vision, and I'd have to pull over, and I'd call my wife and, honey, sorry, I was starting to see the sizzles. I don't want to pass out driving. I'm going to have to sit here with some AC for a while. And she's like, okay, all right, call me when you leave to make sure you're okay. Okay. And I mean, that's no BS. And so we had people visit, you know, when I told them what it was like, you know, early days, and they were like, there's no way. And I'm like, you guys can come out and we'll train there together. And we went, and, you know, one of our guys was like, he's pretty quirky. And he goes, hey, you know, do you think Rick will run 2 practices a day for me? And I said, you won't be able to do that. And he goes, no, we'll be out there for weeks. You know, I mean, I've done that at other gyms. I'm like, yeah, this ain't other gyms. Trust me, you can't do that. And he goes, well, but I mean, I'm a really good I'm like, yeah, you're a great athlete. Yeah, that's great. No. And so he showed up, did 1 day, and we didn't see him the next day. And I said, well, what happened? Right. And it was 115 degrees, and the metal door was open, no fans, no nothing. He calls us at, you know, after the second day of practice. And I'm like, dude, where were you? And he goes, oh man, I think we died. He goes, I did 1 practice, and then I went back to the hotel, and I couldn't drink enough water, and then I ate a whole Cinnabon, those giant Cinnabons. I ate a whole Cinnabon, and I woke up at 1 the next day. I was like, yeah, man. So you want 2 practices? He goes, oh, dude, you weren't kidding. And I said, would you think I'd ever lie to you? I'm never going to lie to you. It is the hardest place you can train. Yes. And so it was pretty funny, but 3 days a week is
solid frequency.
Yeah, 3 days a week. If you go too much, it depends. Like sometimes it becomes your identity. And, I know it sounds weird. I like when people are like, oh, you're the jujitsu guy. I'm like, no, I do jujitsu. And they're like, you own a gym. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, I do jujitsu, but this is not my identity. And they're like, how is it not your identity? You do this every single day. And I'm like, yeah, it's not my identity, man. You have to, it gets unhealthy when you identify with something that's an activity. I mean, jiu-jitsu means a ton to me. It means a lot. It's the reason for a whole lot of improvement in my life, but I'll give it the credit where credit's due. But that's one lesson to learn, that it can't be your identity, because once you start losing more than you win, it'll affect your whole who you are, and that it's not supposed to do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question for this series from our roll call is, what's a lesson you've learned through martial arts that you think applies to everyday life outside the gym?
Losses aren't losses. It's learning. It's only a loss if you quit, and you're going to lose more than you win. And especially with jiu-jitsu, it's not a place you learn to win. It's a place you learn to lose. And the way that you take a loss says so much about your character, because that is the only guarantee in your life. You're not guaranteed to win. And that's why, like, when you raise kids, you want my kid's special. My kid's smart. My kid's smarter than all the other kids. No, they're not. No, my kid's special. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not at all. And if you raise them to be special, they will. Nobody will like them. They won't be able to handle losses because you're not letting them lose. They have to learn how to take a loss, turn it into fuel, right, to get better and improve, because someday someone's going to tell them, hey, we went another direction. We're not going to hire you. Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Is there anything I can use for feedback? Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, keep me in mind if anything ever shows up. Boom, pivot. They're off to the next thing, and then they apply any feedback. Someday somebody's going to die that's really close to them, and you know what? You can't shrivel up and just, oh, it's all about me. No, it's not about you. Somebody passed away. You got to be useful. Step up. The only guarantee in life is you are going to have loss, to fail. You are going to do that. How you handle that, that's what you need to practice. Winning's easy. When you win, that's awesome. Everybody handles a win pretty well. Don't be a jerk when you win. That's easy. So that's what we take.
Good. All right, moving into our very last part of our mini episode, and this is word into wisdom. So how this is laid out, Roland, is there is a list, so 1 to 100, and we can either start with the naughty list, so that's either more like gritty, tough, challenging words, or we can start with our nice list. So this is more motivational, uplifting words, and so you'll choose a number for either of them, and we can start with whatever one you'd like, and then we'll go from there.
Naughty or nice?
Which one do you want to start with?
Naughty.
Okay, so now next question is 1 to 100. Pick a number.
1 to 100. 100.
Okay, let me go down. Okay, the word is obsession. So a fixation on a person, idea, or goal that consumes balance and peace. So how has this shown up in your life, martial arts journey, or any wisdom that you take away from that?
I think obsession is important. You have to find something that you enjoy. Not that you enjoy. That's a bad word. Something that you can get obsessed about that's not going to ruin your life. A lot of people get obsessed with people, with a lot of different things. But if you get obsessed with something that can improve your life, it's probably a pretty good obsession. You get something physical, something religious. It's pretty good. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's a human capability, not something in the wild. This is something that we have. So something you should exercise.
Do you think that there's a point where people can get overly obsessed, even if it starts off initially with something that can be positive?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, I know people that get so obsessed with jiu-jitsu competition that they completely miss the point. They completely miss the point. They're like, great jiu-jitsu competitors. They do wild stuff. It's so amazing. They come up with all this really cool stuff for jiu-jitsu, and they meet all these people and all these, other gyms that are doing the same thing, and they just miss the point of how it's supposed to shape their life, and then they have no other life outside of what's on the mat, because they're literally on the mat for 16 hours a day, and that's not healthy. I'm glad that they do that, because they come up with some cool stuff, but maybe too much.
Yeah.
You can't ask that person a recipe or how their love life is going. It just,
Always comes back to jiu-jitsu.
always comes back to jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, because I talk about jiu-jitsu all the time, and I don't even consider myself a jiu-jitsu person, so it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to our nice list.
Mhm.
So 1 to 100.
20.
20. Consistency. So harmony of conduct or practice with a profession, a firmness or constitution or character.
I think it's important for people to know that consistency as a result is not what you're looking for. Consistency as a practice is what you're looking for. So if you are expecting consistency of a result, you might get pretty frustrated, because there's a lot of variables, especially in jiu-jitsu. So managing your expectations is pretty big. But if you know that you're consistent, you're disciplined, you gotta pat yourself on the back for that and just kind of keep it going.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. That's it.
We
made it through.
Nice. This is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you very much, and thank you. And for anybody listening, please go and follow Roland on Instagram, follow the gym at Journeyman Grappling, give him some love and support. And like I said, if you didn't hear already, go to episode 3 and listen to all the wonderful things that we went over. It's a good one. It's a long one, but we covered some awesome content. So thank you for your time, Roland. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to The Grip. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow along on Instagram at The Grip Pod to stay up to date on new episodes. That way you can send over a DM if you've got a question you'd like to hear answered on our roll call series. Now remember, stay sharp, be grounded, and never lose your grip. See you next time.